What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Comic Source. My name is Billy, and today we're going to be talking about WandaVision Episode 4. So we opened the episode with a perfectly done scene describing people coming back from the blip, and what better place to do that than in a hospital where they would obviously be over capacity, everything would just be utter chaos. And then Monica looks around for her mom, who's actually been dead for 3 years when she had been blipped for 5 years but doesn't understand it, and it's just really like heartbreaking and jaw-dropping scene at the same time. And then we move on to her trying to go back to work, where I saw just like a little bit of a parallel between her and Captain America, where Captain America came back in the present day, saw that Peggy was now 756 years old and had dementia, and she founded S.H.I.E.L.D., which is the reason that he joined. Now, Monica Rambeau, obviously the reason that she joined S.W.O.R.D. was because her mom founded it, and then she has to come back from the blip and realize that she's now passed away. So I just saw a little bit of a parallel between that, nothing too big. And then we meet director Tyler Hayward, and I did a little bit of research on him just to see if he was a recurring character in Marvel, but the only universe that he's known to be in is Earth 199999, and that's the MCU universe. But as comic book people know, the comic book universe, main universe, is 616. And when director Tyler Hayward and Monica Rambeau are walking through the hallway, they're talking about the astronaut training program. And the thing is with that could obviously be just more exposition for her character and what she is doing as Lieutenant Trouble. And she's probably going to take her mother's place as Photon, but that could just be a little bit of a breadcrumb information for us to look forward to the Fantastic Four. Because there could be missing astronauts that were thought to be blipped, but it's just our beloved Marvel's first family. They also mentioned threats and allies that could be just calling back to Thor and Thanos, or that could be talking about the Kree-Skrull War. It could be a bunch of things. And that's when the director sends her on a missing persons case in New Jersey. And my thought is, if Jimmy Woo is specifically there looking for a missing person, rather than getting a call from the cops saying, hey, something wild's going on over here, if he's there just for a missing person, and he hasn't seen said missing person throughout this entire episode, because, he would have said something if he saw them, I think that one missing person could be Agnes's husband, Ralph, because we haven't seen him on screen at all, and I think that's something that we definitely got to look forward to in the future, for sure. Speaking of my man Jimmy Woo, we get introduced to him in this episode by way of his perfected magic trick. Been waiting for that since Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm just glad to see that he's got his magic.
Sir, can you knock?
It's on point now. Good to know. And then the cops are trying to tell them that Westview actually doesn't exist, which means one of two things. That Wanda actually just adopted this plot of land for herself and then shut the entire world out of, knowing that it exists. Or she just took an area of the forest, like an unplotted land, like just something that hasn't been taken over, and then just built it from the ground up. And then we bring back another old character from Marvel, Darcy Lewis from the Thor movies, who back then was just an intern. Glad to see now that she's a doctor. Glad to see that she's finished her edumacation and that she is now working with S.W.O.R.D. And then she shows up to the site and quickly finds out that this is actually going to be broadcasted to the universe as a sitcom. And then she puts it on the TV, and then you can see throughout the episode that it's actually progressing through, newer and newer ages of TV. Like she started with the smaller, tiny television and then went up and up to the newer box TVs. And then we get that shot revealing that it was her in the first episode monitoring Wanda's output. And then we get a fun montage of them doing exactly what we've been doing for the past 3 weeks, which is dissect every single frame of every single episode. And then the way that they identify everybody I thought was kind of funny, where they cast every single character as their real life personality. And I just want to point out the only 3 people that weren't truly casted on that board. And that's Agnes, Dottie, and Ralph. Agnes was casted on the board, but she did not have an identification tag to go along with her. Dottie, on the other hand, was not seen in episode 1. She was only seen in episode 2. So that might just be a reason they hadn't gotten to that episode yet in that point in the episode. So I might just be, digging too deep on that one. Obviously, Ralph hasn't been seen on screen, so there's no way they're going to be able to identify him like that. And then we get to the best part of any manic analysis, and that's the whiteboard. On the whiteboard, we can see on the bottom left that Skrulls are highlighted as a possible suspect, which means obviously S.W.O.R.D. knows about Skrulls. That's, a given. But that means that Jimmy Woo as well knows about Skrulls. And then on the right side, it says, why Hexagon, which is a common question that people have been asking just as fans. Why sitcoms, which is also a question that people have been asking just as a fan. Same time and space, which is very interesting. I'm curious to see exactly how everything is pacing as it is inside of that universe. And then lastly, is Vision alive? And that's the biggest question out of all of this. Probably the second biggest behind, is Wanda the villain of this show? And then they ask another question that we've been asking. When a S.W.O.R.D. agent brings the picture of the helicopter to Jimmy Woo, he asks her, why'd you colorize it? She says, I didn't. And that's a really big thing for me because I really want to know exactly how that works. Was that just the future episodes being colorized kind of just poking out? Or Is that the outside world kind of poking at Wanda just like it does throughout all of the episodes? And then that leads us to the radio contact attempt, which obviously Wanda wanted to shut out the fact that she heard it to S.W.O.R.D. because the show cut to commercial for them rather than for us, where we saw the whole conversation and then it cuts to commercial. And then we get to see the other side of the Beekeeper from episode 2, where it's just a S.W.O.R.D. agent inside of a hazmat suit, and then when he crosses the plane of reality, his tether turns into a jump rope, but the jump rope stays a jump rope once it leaves that plane of reality. So I'm really curious to see how that could affect maybe Vision or maybe Wiccan and Speed. Maybe they'll be able to leave, possibly. But I kind of doubt it. I feel like there would have to be a little bit more than just that. And then we get the wildest succession of scenes that we've seen in this show so far, where we get to actually see Wanda yeet Monica Rambeau out of her house like it's Dragon Ball Z. And it was the tensest I've seen, honestly, from a lot of MCU material anytime. And then also shout out to the great acting shown by Elizabeth Olsen in that scene as well. And then that next scene is Vision walking into the house dead, which is terrifying. That actually made me jump just a little bit when I watched it, I'm not gonna lie to you. But that also makes me think, because back to back they showed us Vision dead and then Wanda saying that we can't leave. So that makes me think that it's not going to be possible for Vision to leave actually alive and walking and continuing to live in the MCU. I feel like this might just be his home and this is the only place that he can live. And I just want to know, like, is that what Vision looks like all the time and Wanda's just trying to cover it up and make him look like how he looked before? Or was that just a little bit of Wanda's PTSD or the back of her mind telling her, hey, this is not real? And then we get that last shot of Monica Rambeau saying that it's all Wanda, which just makes me think, like, is Wanda actually the villain of this series? And then on top of that, is she the villain of this series, which leads into her being the villain of the Multiverse of Madness in 2022? I think it's sounding more and more plausible as we watch these episodes, to be honest with you. But my question is, will something happen in the remainder of the episodes where Vision is going to be alive and able to walk out freely, and especially her kids? Will she be able to leave with her kids and Vision? But that's going to be it for today's episode, guys. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Catch you next week. Peace.